Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of the Essential Therapies podcast with Dr. Cindy. In today's episode, Dr. Cindy has an interview with one of her patients named Casey, who has fully embraced the myofascial self-treatment techniques that she learned at Essential Therapies. So in this episode, she shares how these practices have enabled her to enjoy an active vacation abroad, feel free from pain and dysfunction, and some other details. So we hope you enjoyed today's episode, and we will see you again next week.
Thanks for joining the Essential Therapies podcast. This is Dr. Cindy Hodgson. I'm a physical therapist and exercise physiologist, and I am super excited today to have a patient with me for another patient testimonial. And thank you so much, Casey, for doing this. Because
you're so welcome.
This is Casey, and you've only been my patient for 5 months.
Yes.
It's not been long. It's like you have learned so much in such a short period of time. I love it.
It's been life-changing.
Yeah, so I'm so excited to hear that. And what I want Casey to tell you or to share today is a little bit about your journey, and especially about the self-care piece, or I like to say self-treatment, because as you've heard me say, everything is, these days self-care can be everything from pouring a glass of wine and doing a bubble bath to, who knows what, all kinds of different things. I used to say self-care, but now I say self-treatment, meaning you're actually giving yourself a treatment. So you have really done a great job at putting that all together. And when you just recently went on an extended trip and overseas to boot, and just had, a lot of walking and activity to do outside of your norm, we took some time on your appointment before you left, and actually here in this space we do a lot of treatment on the floor, and we went through your whole series, or a lot of the series that you wanted to kind of make sure you had it right. So, and it seemed to work out really well for you. So let's end up with that, but I want you to share a little bit of what brought you here. And I've been specializing in women's health for over 20 years, and that's sort of how you ended up at my door.
Yes.
So yeah, share.
So I ended up here with Cindy for some pelvic care from having endometriosis starting at a young age, and then moving forward with multiple laparoscopic surgeries for that, polycystic ovary syndrome, having 2 C-sections with 2 of my children, and then having hysterectomy. So that's about 12 years out now, and just not feeling myself in everyday life and intimacy. So I was referred to Cindy and came here thinking I was just going to get treatment when I was here, and then that I would hopefully get better. But learned that I needed to make it a daily treatment for myself, and that's that self-treatment that comes into play, which has been so helpful. So I can tell the days that I don't self-treat. I can tell the weeks. I like to compare it to when you go get a massage or something. Mm-hmm. You're like, oh, I need a massage. You feel that in your body, but there's nothing you can do about it. Well, when I'm not seeing Cindy, I can do something about it because I have those self-treatment pieces. I can go to a podcast. I can go to a learning video, and be in between those appointments. Mm-hmm. And I think the progress we've made in the short 5 months, we would not have made without those pieces helping me while I'm at home so that I can continue your care when I'm at home.
100%. So truly what we do here in clinic is just one tiny little piece. It's like for you to be able to carry that through is truly a game changer. And so if you're not familiar with one of the main things I like to teach for self-treatment, it's the CALM technique, C-A-L-M, which I shared with you fairly early on. It's about connecting. The C stands for connect, to connect with yourself, your body, your mind, your spirit. A, to assess. And what's really going on? What do you need? What do you feel like you need? The listen is to go deeper into that, feeling into your body more. And then M, to move, which I often joke, sometimes it's move off the sofa and get on the floor or somewhere into a position, or maybe get out of a position if you've been there too long and you're catching up on those signs. Tell me what that was like for you when I first started giving you those pieces, and what might be helpful to share about about what did you first think, and then how did it end up?
I think at the beginning, like with everything, it was, oh, I'm going to do this at home. I'm going to do this in between our sessions. And then I get home and it gets put on the wayside. And then, but knowing some of my symptoms, I started becoming more regular with it and realizing how beneficial it was. And then how much more work you could do with me when I was in session. So that was very helpful. So getting into a routine was super important, and really feeling when my body told me I needed, but then trying not to wait for my body to tell you. It's a balancing act. But
so that connecting, you were connecting
yes,
and assessing kind of, you were starting to.
Almost always.
Yes.
And then I think we were able to do so much more here. So we've kind of, since everything's so interconnected, we've kind of moved away from some of the pelvic stuff to move to other areas of my body that are either tight or sore or aren't functioning the way they should be, because I'm doing this stuff at home. You can tell me if I'm wrong there.
What I noticed was, of course, we were focusing on pelvic stuff, and you were doing things, and you were looking good, like alignment and stuff. I could tell that was happening. And then probably because you were connecting more and assessing and feeling into your body more, I remember you coming in and saying, my neck is really messed up. Maybe remember this? It's like, maybe we should go up here. Like, I'm doing pretty good. Like, okay, so let's address that. And it was almost like you weren't sharing those symptoms before. I think probably because you weren't feeling them as much. This is what we do. We have a tendency to block things out, right? Like, it's like we have to get the jobs done that we have to do every day. And so we become really good at disconnecting and not feeling, doing the opposite of assessing and listening to our bodies, and just like barreling through it, right?
For sure.
And so a big piece of this is just being present, which John Barnes would call being in channel 3, right? Right. So what was that like? Do you remember kind of that transition of learning how to feel and be present? Do you remember this whole channel 3 idea?
I think that sometimes for me, because I was an athlete, because I like trying to be really aware of my body, it's easier for me to say, okay, I'm really feeling stuff like in my chest when you're pulling on my legs, and being able to recognize that and just be okay with it. And I think that once you can get through that part of it, you can say, okay, everything's interconnected, everything works together, which only makes sense for our bodies, and to be able to listen for that. I'm still working through when I come in, because I did come in for pelvic health, and sometimes I come in and I'm like, my neck really hurts, and I'm like, should I even be saying that? But then I have to remind myself, yes, it's all interconnected, it's all interwoven, and it's a huge part of why the self-treatment works, and coming back in and getting those prescriptive appointments where I'm like, I don't remember what to do next. And we sit on the floor and go through the self-treatment, which was key to making it through long flights, long distance travel, lots and lots of walking, sleeping in a bed that's not mine, those types of things.
Yeah.
So every night, I carved out time on our trip just right before we went to bed, like even in bed sometimes, or on the floor, grab a towel. I just took my strap and my ball. So those were two like compact things you can pack easily.
That's one of the things I was going to ask you to share. So, okay, you took the little orange ball. Actually, there's one behind us there. And then the yoga strap, which is a very long yoga strap. It's so the small soft ball. And the yoga strap that I years ago, of course, we always had the 6-foot long ones. And so then I started using the 8-foot long. And now I use the 10-foot long yoga strap because we can do so much more with it. But tell us, and I'm so happy to hear you say you're adding this to your vacation, because I hear this probably right now. I'm hearing it every week. Well, I wasn't able to get my self-treatment in because we were away. There was no good place to do legs up the wall, or, well, I just couldn't fit it in. And so what would you say was you keep saying you knew you had to do it. Okay. So what was the thing to share that really made you realize, yes, this is worth taking the time for?
Just the improvement I've seen in my body, in the way I feel, has made me feel so much better. So to toss those things in my bag, I was at a dance competition with my daughter. We'd been sitting in chairs, like we were sitting on the floor of the gym for a while. And I went and put my legs up the wall and laid on the gym floor. I mean, all these girls are dancing and stretching. Nobody knows that some old lady has got her legs up the wall. And then one of the dancers came and laid next to me. And then one of the other moms came and laid next to me. And so there were like 5 or 6 of us by the time I was done with my 10 minutes up the wall. And I felt so much better. I had driven 3 hours that morning. I had slept in a bed that wasn't mine, like all of those things. So, and just realizing that you can do it kind of wherever. I was fully prepared to put my legs up the wall at the airport if needed.
I've done it.
Because you can.
I've done that. Yeah.
And once you start doing that self-treatment, and I hate to say like get into a routine of it, but get into a routine of it, you miss it and you know you need it and your body will remind you.
Yeah. I was just telling someone not even an hour ago, we were talking about awesome toes, the little wobbly things that go between, and how I crave them, like my feet crave them. So if I went to do my legs up the wall last night, I'm like, oh, I have to get my toes. I don't always use them, but there are days when I just know I need it. And that's a part of being so familiar with your body and paying attention and listening to what it's asking for and then honoring it, right? Because so much we don't. And
so true. And I think it's so important to just, once you have that awareness, you can be able to, your body will tell you what it needs. My daughter came and saw Cindy. She's a track and dance athlete and had some hip issues. And she asked me for the ball when Cindy gave her a ball too. And when we were at nationals for a week, she asked me for the ball. And then the ball became a digestive help for everyone in the house. So she was like, I'm going to use it for my hip, but you can also use it for this. And she was telling another parent. And so the ball made its way around.
Yes. I have several of these around, right?
So I sometimes feel like as a 47-year-old, I've just come to a place in my life where I'm like, okay, you've got to do some self-care, some self-treatment. But also when a 17-year-old is like, Mom, this makes a difference. Can I use your ball? It's kind of a big deal.
Yeah, that's so
And
cool.
that body awareness and just, if there were treatments like this and if my brain knew this when I was 17, how much better off would my whole skeletal system be?
I think of that often. So you were away and you mentioned different beds and all this stuff. So, and you're doing legs up the wall on a gym floor. So I love that. I have pictures of legs up the wall in many different places, but when you're in a hotel, let's say, did you do it on the floor? Did you do it in the bed? Do you have any other tips? Okay. Cool.
So I did it on the bed. In one of the hotels, there just wasn't a lot of wall space, and I like to do some of like the side work. I also did it on a bed, like toward the headboard. And then also, Cindy, you gave me some other things to do, like off the side of the bed too, which has been, when you can't really manipulate yourself and things, the off the side of the bed things have been very helpful.
Right. So one of the things that I wanted to mention too is we're talking about myofascial self-treatment, but using the true myofascial release principles as given by the John Barnes myofascial release approach. So we're talking about taking up the barrier to, getting to the barrier, taking up the slack, not deep diving into a stretch. So a lot of times this is hard to get across, right? So some of the things that we do, like hip strap stretches, sometimes we don't hold those 5 minutes. I don't know. I still call that self-treatment for me. It's not necessarily a self-myofascial release because we're not holding just at the barrier and waiting for a long period of time. But it does other things to help open us up, and that elastic component of the fascia gets opened and yeah, I hate to use, I'm not going to use the word stretch, moved into a position so that the biotensegrity of the body has now given us a better place to be.
And I think once you feel that, that makes a huge difference.
Right. And that being sometimes you're at the wall and you just feel your body, if you've been there a long time, and that's the release, right? And sometimes, my head and neck might even start going into an unwinding of just gentle, oh, wow, that's doing what it needs to do, because we've given it that space and time and holding it gently so that it doesn't feel forced, and it's just,
It really comes back to that, like, full circle of calm. Like, you're working on the calm techniques, and then everything kind of melts into a calm, or that like taffy that we've talked about.
Right, the taffy stretching. So the legs up the wall, I'll mention this too, because a lot of times people hear that and they just think of the one position of the legs up the wall. And of course, I actually spend a lot of time in that one, but I have a series that I put together with several different positions that I really kind of worked on over the years. I started teaching people this 25 years ago, and for myself, there were certain things I wanted to feel and parts of my body I wanted to get to, and then I added and changed things. So I know you do that series. Do you want to share, how do you do it? Do you go through all of them, or you do a little bit of each one here and there? Do you sometimes, like, what do you have, a favorite one or one you dislike for a reason?
Trying to think. I do the series. And then there's times where I can tell, like, different parts aren't working right or don't feel as fluid as other, or tightness is usually a big concern of mine. And so I'll go to the one that I know is going to work on it. Time is a constraint depending on how much time I have to get through the whole thing. And I'm not real good at holding and waiting. So sometimes I have to remind myself or set a timer to switch, because I'm really impatient. But I'm getting better.
No, and I've been there. I mean, from way, way, way back when, in trying to develop all of this, it's been years of perfecting and trial and error. So yeah, I totally.
And that hold is so important. And I even see, like, I'll be laying here when you're working on me, and I'm like, how does she do it? She's just holding me for so long, like, and it feels amazing, but I have to often remind myself. So my self-treatment is a work in progress.
Yeah. Oh, always though,
yeah.
Right? And so the beautiful thing that you said a moment ago is that you've done this enough in only 5 months, really less than 5 months, because it takes a little while once you first start learning this from me to kind of get it, right? But in a short time, you've been able to do enough to know when your body's giving you signals, oh, I know I need to do this technique when I get home, or oh, I really need to do this one today, more of this and less of that. And that is the beauty of it right there, because you've learned so much about your body and its signals that it's giving you, when before you weren't feeling it.
No,
right?
I wasn't feeling it. Or I was just feeling miserable all over.
And you couldn't even define what it was.
Right.
So you've connected with your body so much now, and you're listening to it so much that you know, with the tools that you've been given in this toolbox you have, what to use when. And that's always an ongoing process, because we're always changing. So what might happen is, maybe start a new workout routine, right? And then your body responds differently to that. So you might need more of this and less of that, or something else might come up and you maybe strained yourself, or you had a long time at work that you were ready for school to get out and it was a little crazy. And so then you have to kind of find different things. And it's not just a cookie cutter, oh, we're always doing this. Yes, I have these series of things that work for so many people. That's why I just keep using similar things. But when I teach you how to use it on your own body, it becomes unique to you. So you're feeling, you just described that perfectly. Like, sometimes it's the same way for me. I might hit the wall and do, the series, but I might only do a couple. If I only have 10 minutes, I don't say, oh, I only have 10 minutes. I really need to do 30 minutes, so I'm not going to do it at all. Right?
I just do what I can in that time.
And it's amazing what even 5 minutes can do. And that's something John Barnes has always said in the seminars, at least do 5 minutes. Of course, 5 minutes is really never enough for me. I always want to do more than 5 minutes. But at least it gets you started. And truly, there have been times when that's all I've had time for. And because I'm so aware of my body and what I'm feeling, I can tell the difference with just that 5 minutes. And it sounds like that's kind of what
you
you're
really
feeling.
can tell the difference if you're paying attention. But you've got to pay attention.
Right.
That's where it becomes, once you're starting to recognize those body feels, it's so important to continue with it at home, on the go, wherever you are.
Yeah. In the car, I have this ball in the car, different things, whatever we're doing. But so percentage-wise, I don't know if you even know the answer to this, but I'm going to throw it out there. Percentage-wise, how much better do you feel like you feel functionally since starting all of this? Like, if you were feeling below 100 being like what you would expect to feel, right? Like vibrant and healthy and ready to go and able to do whatever you want to do in your body, okay? And when you first came, you were less than that. How do you feel now?
I think it's really hard to put a percentage on it, but I definitely feel better on a daily basis. I do start my day with lengthening, stretching. It makes getting out of bed easier. It makes that tightness from sleeping. And then on those days where I'm not at that 100%, that's an instant reminder to do the self-treatment. And then it's like when you're like, ooh, I need to go back. Oh, you also need to do your self-treatment so that when you get back, it's a better place and you can move forward. So every time it's not like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's we're always moving forward because of the self-treatment. So, I mean, I would say if I was at 70%, I'm probably on the daily more probably like 90, 95%. And then when I get below that, I know that I can tell, I can gauge it. You have not done legs up the wall. You haven't used your ball. You haven't used your strap in like a day or 2 or 3 or 4. And then that's when I jump back on it.
Yeah. Oh, I love this. This is exactly what I do and what I feel. And so I've come up with this minimum, right? I tell people, you got to find out what your bare minimum is, right? Overall, I mean, it's going to change sometimes depending on what you're doing. But I know if I don't do my Legs Up the Wall series, for example, at least 3 times a week really well, I'm going to start feeling it. If I'm not doing the hip strap series, 4 times, at least 2 of those longer than shorter, then I need to do the ball. I need to do the foam roll. I need to open up my front body. I need to spend time opening up my hands because of what I'm doing every day and giving myself that time. I know what my minimums are. And if I start feeling not so great, like you said, I think, oh yeah, I guess I haven't done that enough this week and I need to get.
And that's where my brain is too.
Yeah.
I can start to feel that percentage drop and then I'm like, oh, so in order to get back, so I don't drop to that 70, that 60, that like I feel horrible, I can get back there. And as soon as that calm hits, you can just feel it, everything kind of melt away.
Oh, yeah. Making me crave it right now.
I know,
actually.
me too. I was just thinking the same thing. Tonight's going to be a long one.
Yeah, same. And on that note, we can take longer time. I do teach this coaching class. It's a self-treatment coaching class where I go through many of the tried and true techniques all in a 2-hour time period, which is really hard to fit that in. But we touch on all of those things. And every time I take that extra time, it is like going and having a treatment sometimes, Yes. It's like, it's certainly better than just doing a workout or just doing a yoga class or something, because you're really tuned into yourself. That's the difference. And, a couple of times I've done a 4-hour coaching thing, which is like a lot. And sometimes that's too much for people because, we can get some of the effects of having myofascial release, which might be some therapeutic pain or some healing going on that might bring up some old trauma, even some old pain. But what a beautiful thing to be able to do some of that yourself, right?
It's so nice to be able to not have to wait for my next appointment. That's kind of huge. And Cindy will say when I leave, text me if you have a question. And I have. I don't know what to do next, and I hurt here. And she like sends me a video right away because she always has the answer for it. So that's also great.
Which means I've had a lot of pain problems in my life, and I've done a lot of self-treatment. So that's so great that you're able to share this with us. I so appreciate it. And I just want to encourage people, it's really key. You don't have to feel 100% all the time dependent on the therapist either. You shouldn't. You should be able to learn how to take care of your body. We should be here as an advocate to help move you through areas that you can't do on your own. And it is important to have therapy. You can't get to places without having a skilled therapist that you could get, that you're trying to do without one. You need that too. But my goal is to teach you to be able to do a lot of this yourself, so you don't need me. And when you do, we can go beyond into deeper areas and get deeper levels and all the things, and it's all good. And you've done such a great job of that. And my hope is that other people will be encouraged by this.
Yeah, it's been very good for me, myself, and like how I appear outward with not feeling tired and sore all the time.
Empowered is the word that comes to mind. Do you feel empowered
yes.
to be able to do this?
I do.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think we're both going to be doing some legs up the wall.
Yes, there will be legs up the wall.
Yeah, so hopefully you're going to do it too tonight. And thanks for joining, and look forward to maybe seeing you here, or hope you catch us on the next one. Bye. Cool, that was great.
Did that go okay?
Yes.